It honestly all comes down to mindset. Like we have clients that they're a family of four and they make $80,000 a year that have more money than our clients that make $5 to $10 million a year. And that just shows you like it doesn't matter how much money you make. It's all in your mind of how much do you deserve to keep, and do I deserve to invest this money and allow it to grow, or am I just going to let it all go away?
Let's talk about money. If you're listening to this, guys, this conversation is going to go down a rabbit hole of, obviously Barbara hears and sees and looks at people's tax returns and deals with business owners. I mean, over the years, how many businesses do you think you filed or consulted, if you had to guess?
10,000? That's a lot. I've never thought about that.
10,000 tax returns?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So if there's anyone that can say, I have the 10,000 hour rule, but it takes more than an hour to file taxes and more than one meeting and so therefore that deems Barbara kind of a financial expert in her own world. And you look at this, and I would actually say 95% of America or the world probably has not deemed themselves financial experts. You know what I mean? Like you make money, that doesn't make you a financial expert. You spend money's in a bank account, that doesn't make you a financial expert. Like, you know what I mean? Just like we transact with money on a constant basis. Everybody knows what money is.
Yeah.
It doesn't make you educated around, the growth, the savings, the budgeting, the accounting side of money. And so that's why I want to dive into this whole like relationship to money. And one, what have you noticed out of these 10,000 businesses and people you've worked with? What have you seen, if you had to describe different types of relationship to money that you've seen, how would you describe those?
It honestly all comes down to mindset. Like we have clients that they're a family of four and they make $80,000 a year that have more money than our clients that make $5 to $10 million a year. And that just shows you like it doesn't matter how much money you make. It's all in your mind of how much do you deserve to keep, and do I deserve to invest this money and allow it to grow, or am I just going to let it all go away, right? We've seen it with like lottery winners. You hear it all the time on the news. This person won $1 million and then 6 months later they're completely broke and they owe in taxes and they're gonna, go to jail for not paying their taxes. All kinds of crazy stuff because they didn't have the money mindset before they won the lottery that would allow them to keep it. So I would say like no matter where you are in your income or business journey, you have to work on the inside first.
Love that. So what makes a good money mindset? Like if you had to say, here's some key principles that I abide by or I tell my clients to abide by, what would that look like?
Man, it's so, I would say like personal and kind of depends on what you saw growing up, right? We're all like victims of our childhood, not victim, that's a bad word, but a result of our childhood. And it just depends what we saw. Like for me, both my parents are addicts. And so I saw a different money mindset than maybe the person next to me. Like my parents never had money, and whatever they did scrounge from making minimum wage jobs, like they spent it on drugs, or they would somehow come into a large sum of money and then a week later it was gone because my dad would gamble it away. So we all kind of see these things. Some people might have grown up with a lot of money, but then they saw their parents be so afraid to spend it and so frugal that then they also have that like frugality mindset and don't allow themselves to invest. So we see like the whole gamut of it. And so I would say like first kind of write down what you remember hearing as a kid. Like I know for me, it was like we could never order drinks at a restaurant because that was an extra expense, right? So I realized when I was like in my 20s, I was like, man, I never order like a cocktail, or even, I mean, I don't drink soda, but like I couldn't even buy a soda, you know, because that was just like ingrained in me growing up. Maybe you heard something different. So I would say like write down what you remember hearing and then being like, is that actually true? Like, am I worthy of drinks? That's probably why I always have like 5 drinks with me now, right? Because I'm like, I'm worthy of having drinks. But yeah, just figuring out what those like, what that programming was as a kid and just changing it.
So how do you, yeah, because that's where, so step one, in my opinion, is awareness. Like, are you even aware of your program? Mm-hmm. And sometimes it takes some external feedback to be like, you're cheap. Like, you're always too cheap, dude. Like, and this happened to me, I'll be honest. I was on a date and I go to tip or something, and she looks and and this is my girl, this is Mia or whatever. And I was like, she's like, are you kidding me? And she's like, why'd you only tip that? And I was like, I don't know. Like, that's just, I just wrote down a number. I didn't even think much of it. And she's like, from now on, you're going to tip over 20%. She's like, 25% is the new 15%. And I was like, no, like I had this like fight, like, and I was just like, she's like, these people are working their asses off. They paid nothing. Like, you know, and she goes into this, and I just was like, so, and I watched, so this is what ended up happening. So, and I never tipped do you tip your Chipotle people or do you tip your ice cream people?
I tip ice cream people, but not Chipotle. I don't think it asks you for a tip there.
A lot of like the walk-through kind of restaurant, like, or like you're a barista at a coffee shop, do you tip that, like, behind the counter? So I never grew up doing that. Like, I just was like, why would you tip them? They literally are right there. Like, they didn't like wait on me like a table, mm-hmm. right? Like, that was always my mindset. And I just grew up with the frugal dad, right? Like, and so I was at dinner with my dad, and we went through one of those kind of walkthroughs, like, I forget, some like noodle company or something. And I watched my dad. I didn't tip. And then my dad looks, he's like, well, did you not leave the tip? He's like, I got the tip. And he like pulls out his wallet, he puts the money in the thing, and I go, I've never seen you tip on one of these. And it like sparked this like feedback of like, oh my gosh, I was programmed one way. He had a reset or reprogram at some point. I've been going through this awareness of like, man, I am a little cheap punk. And, you know, this abundance, he's like, well, and then he brought up, he's like, hey, like, it's all about abundance. It's all about giving. And I was like, Dad, this is a new version of you. Like, I was like, what happened? Right? Like, cause I was like, this isn't how we were raised. And he's like, yeah, I've had to have some good wake up calls. And my dad's 70 years old. Like, it wasn't until like recently he had that wake up call. And I was like, oh man, like I should have that now in my 30s. You know what I mean? And it's That's funny awesome when you bring awareness to just how you tip or how you taxes. Like my uncles, I had this conversation, and I'm curious your 2 cents. My uncle makes a ton of money, he's a lawyer, and my other uncle's a judge, and we're all fighting them on taxes. And guess what their response was? It was, oh, I love giving the money to the government. We were all like, what? Like genuinely was like, he's like, oh, it means a lot when I pay a lot in taxes. It just means I make tons of money. And I'm like, you don't have like this plan to not pay the government? Like this whole strategic, like, you know, move money here and invest in real estate, do the cost sake. Like you don't, he's like, no. The government needs our money.
I mean, it's definitely one way to look at it, right? I mean,
I was like, what? But his relationship to taxes was very different than my relationship to taxes.
Yeah, right? You don't see that very often, but I always tell clients, like, we want to lower your taxes as much as we can, and we will find you strategies to save. But also in the end, if you owe some money, like it is a privilege to pay taxes. Like that just means that you made a lot of money, like your uncle was saying, like, so it's not a terrible thing. But what I don't like is when people overpay when they don't have to, you know?
Yes. And we're going to talk about that here in a second. It's just because when you overpay, that's a frustrating thing. You're like, did you not know that if you click this button, it would save you $15,000?
Yeah.
Like, really? That's it? Like, yep, you just missed the button. You already did it. You earned it. You didn't do anything else. You just didn't know there was a line item that you could do this thing.
Right.
And like that kind of stuff is what bugs me. When people have a $15,000 overage because they didn't know the tax codes and the loopholes, and you know, and I always have the mindset of like, Well, the loopholes are there. People are using them. They're either using them or I'm using them. And, it's using the codes and the laws that are there for